Hey guys, and welcome to the first ever, weekly series I am looking to do. I am currently calling it peer review, or peer reviews, something to that effect. Who knows, maybe I'll change it sometime down the line. But the whole point of this is basically to just take a VOD of mine, of a preferably just pug key that I have done during the week, and kind of just go through the VOD and discuss various parts of it. The build, my thought process, why I died, why I did something, why I didn't do. It's also something to kind of make me improve too. I always tell people one of the best ways to improve, especially I would say all classes, all roles definitely can benefit from this, but I feel especially healers, just record yourself. Seriously, just set up OBS, record a run, and then just go through and actually dedicate some time to review it. Take a look at it. See if you can figure out what you did wrong, what you could improve upon, and highlight what you did right. Take note of the things that you thought were great plays. That way you know to do them more, to be more consistent with those things. Because oftentimes, I'm right there. I've done it plenty of times. I'll just do something awesome. And I'm like, man, that was pretty sick. And then I just completely forget about it and then I never do it again. Okay. So try to find some things to improve upon, but also see what did you do well and make note of that. That way you can continue to do those in keys going forward. So today we're going to take a look at it was an 18 Underrot. I did it as a Resto Druid. Resto Druid was the second healer I ever played on. It's one of my favorites. I haven't played it too aggressively during Dragonflight, but as with all my other healers, I got all the portals on it last season, and I'm continuing to try to work on gearing it. Up on the screen right now is the talents that I ran for this dungeon. This is a kitty weaving build. I don't run kick though, but it is kitty weaving. One of the biggest things, especially when you're learning, is don't stress damage as a healer. It'll come kind of naturally. Just focus on keeping the group alive. Because of that, I feel like when you're first learning, you don't need to worry about a kitty weaving build. You can basically just kind of ignore a lot of the stuff on the left side as a Resto Druid. Grab all three of Lycuria's teachings, get renewal for yourself. Stuff like that is much better, but once you get more comfortable, you'll find that you'll have some downtime where just spamming Wrath for damage kind of feels bad. So being able to do some kitty weaving is kind of fun, and I also think it's probably the most fun version of DPS as a healer, at least for especially Druid, because there's something very satisfying about the whole Druid aesthetic of going from your human form, healing, diving in as a kitty, doing some scratches, biting somebody's face off, then jumping back and making sure everybody's good with their hots, and then diving back in. It's really satisfying once you get used to it, but it's difficult, especially if you're not used to it, and it's also, you briefly become a melee healer, / melee DPS while you're in there, so you gotta make sure that you're watching for melee mechanics, frontals, stuff like that. If you're not used to it, if you haven't played melee, that's just a whole other can of worms that you're gonna have to get used to, because you're just gonna dive in, do I am helping, and then you're just gonna get deleted, and now the party wipes because the healer's dead. So anyways, this was my setup for this run. Like I said, if you don't want to do kitty weaving, if you're not comfortable with it, you don't worry about that, especially while you're trying to get your KSM, pushing for Keystone Hero. It truly doesn't matter as long as you're able to keep the party alive. You're gonna time more keys, truthfully. Also, here's the gear I was running around as. As you can tell, 422, that would have been really good. Dragonflight Season 1. We are currently at Dragonflight Season 2. So for an 18, I was severely undergeared. This was an 18 key that I had myself. So I was able to kind of build out the group. I just did it all via Pugs and Group Finder. Didn't call on any networking, any contacts I had. I just did it the old-fashioned way. I got some pretty good people. As you'll see, the spoiler, it didn't really pan out well. Part of that was, I'd say most of it, if not all of it, was on me, actually, as a healer. And it's partially because of misplays as well as just being undergeared. And reviewing those things and seeing those and figuring them out is part of the process here. I wanted to show a key that I did not succeed in, so that way hopefully you will gain something from it, so that maybe you will succeed in your next key. As far as like the gear, as you can tell, like I said, this is all last season's stuff. Last season's tier set, I have 0 of the new tier on this toon. Really the only new pieces I have are 437 gloves, a 448 belt, and a 437 back piece. I am working on trying to get some 447 crafted items, but currently this is all I'm running. Oh, I guess the 424 ring, nothing too fancy there. And I am still on this toon. I'm running a pure healing onyx amulet. Again, especially when you're undergeared, this actually kind of is useful and helpful. As you'll see here, like this is from that run. It did a bit. There's the steam stone as well as the wild spirit stone show up here. It's nothing major, but it contributes. So without further ado, I guess we'll just get into the actual run. So I'll do some pausing. I'll do some breakdowns. I might just let it run for a while. I'll discuss and chat while it's airing, I guess. This is the first one, so we're gonna kind of see how it goes. So, but I guess here we go. So I am this is, like I said, my key at the beginning of it. Ideally, you're Resto Druid. You're a hot class. During this countdown, might as well get some hots on some people. At the very least, you want to get Cenarian Ward on your tank and Life Bloom on 2 targets, again, preferably the tank. You're going to be running and charging on in with the party. In that case, I tried to get the group some speed boost and get in there. Now, the first pull of Underrot is chaotic. As you can see already, our poor evoker friend down here has 5 stacks of the bleed from the ticks. He is hurting. I also probably could have prepared for this significantly better by pre-hotting the entire group, not just a single DPS. It was a kind of a random DPS at that, as well as the tank. Because our poor evoker friend, as you see, literally has nothing right now. He is praying to all that is holy that he will live through this. And with 5 stacks, it's kind of unlikely. I immediately put Rejuve on him to try to help him. You will see on the right side that I did a Rejuve into Swiftmen earlier on our warrior friend, which means this is at least an empowered Rejuve, which Rejuve isn't going to save anybody, but at least it's a little something. He's down to 4%. I immediately hit Convoke the Spirits, and I too am now praying with him that he will live through this. And RNG gods kind of went into his favor, stabilized until he didn't. It happens again. A lot of chaoticness is happening here. We eventually stabilize. A big part of Resto Druid is once you get those hots on people, you will kind of start to recover a bit. It's not going to be instantaneous. That's the nature of hots. You will see people steadily climb. The damage patterns might kind of stall out a little bit, in that they're no longer just hemorrhaging blood like crazy. As you'll see as I'm going through this, I'm trying to maintain Life Bloom on 2 targets. With my current build and my current style, I'm trying to keep it on 2 DPS if possible, and I'm always trying to keep FLO down. Always try to keep FLO down, especially if you're running a double Life Bloom. That will be pretty important because it will empower Life Bloom. We're going to take a second here. Let's take a look at the talent that I'm referring to here with Life Bloom. You're kind of, with this talent build, you're kind of building around Life Bloom. You have a thing when Life Bloom blooms, up to 3 targets within FLO are healed for an additional amount. You have photosynthesis here. When Life Bloom is on an ally, your periodic heals on them have a 4% chance to cause it to bloom. So ideally, the people with Life Bloom have multiple hots on them, which causes it to bloom more, which then causes everybody in FLO to bloom or to take additional healing from that. You have Circle of Life and Death, so that things are ticking faster on them. We even do something with Spring Blossoms. That way there is an additional heal, additional hot on the target on everybody that is in FLO. So that way you are getting more blooms. This is a heavy bloom based build. Again, there's another boost to Life Bloom's power, as well as we were playing double Life Bloom, obviously, as we saw earlier. So Life Bloom is very important. Beyond that, you're going to want to try to make sure you're doing those empowered wild growths, preferably after people have already taken damage. You'll see it. I'm guilty of it. We're all guilty of it. If you play Resto Druid, you're going to be guilty of it. You don't want to do it before the damage comes out, because wild growth's hot healing is very front loaded. Okay? That means that you need to make sure that you do it after damage has happened, because it's strongest at the beginning. Right there, I hit wild growth and everyone was pretty topped off. That wasn't the best, but it did help our evoker friend kind of there. So beyond that, make sure that you are utilizing your you want to make sure you're using Flourish, that you are using Convoke. Make sure that you are consistently using all of your abilities. Resto Druid, despite being a hot healer, is actually one of the faster paced healers in my opinion. You are constantly applying hots to people. You are constantly you're able, because you are a instant cast healer, you're constantly repositioning. While you're doing that, make sure that you are casting heals on people while you are moving. Your wild growth, your rejuve, or not wild growth, Life Bloom, rejuve, your Efflo, all that can be cast while you are moving.
Watch your step.
And do not sit on cooldowns. Use them liberally. Now you'll see in this first boss fight is Tyrannical Week. A lot of chaos was happening. A lot of chaos was happening earlier, and that's not necessarily the best sign when it's a Tyrannical versus a Fortified Week. But honestly, the trash in this dungeon still does hit quite hard, especially in the beginning phases here. You will see not too much on this. You're going to see me go into kitty form quite a bit. It's honestly probably one of the more chill fights, truthfully, as a healer. There isn't too much to do with it. There's not a lot of damage. You'll see somebody will get hit with Blood Bolt, and they're going to have a healing absorb. As a Resto Druid, that's super easy to deal with. 2-3 hots on them, especially if they're in Efflo. You're able to just constantly DPS. And again, as a kitty weaving build, like our monk friend here is getting hit pretty hard. All I did there, you'll see if we go back, he got hit pretty hard and he has a healing absorb on him. So a lot of people are going to be like, regrowth spam, right? No. He got hit, he has Adaptive Swarm on him, and he has Spring Blossoms from Efflo. That's not going to be enough to save him. You're going to need to do something to help our friend here. All I do is I throw a Rejuve on him, which again isn't going to save him, but I instantly Swift Mend and I Iron Bark him. Iron Bark is a great external. As you'll see, I did end up doing some regrowths on him as well, just to kind of push him over, and he stabilized quite rapidly. Iron Bark will increase all healing that they receive. Additionally, it's an external defensive, so he's no longer taking a lot of damage, and if he took another hit, it would have killed him. This will potentially keep him alive and get through that without any issues. So we're going on to one of the scarier sections of the dungeon. That first section is incredibly chaotic and scary, but truthfully, this is just as bad, if not worse. Just because there's a lot of chain pulling, there's a lot of butt pulling, there's a lot of important kicks. People will get targeted and just take a lot of extra damage beyond just the tank. There's the frontals, which are scary. The spiders are scary. There's all the crap being put on the ground. That's scary. There's a lot of scary stuff to deal with. On top of that, we have good old Sanguine Week, so it's rough. As you see there, unfortunately with this build and with Resto Druid, I know a lot of Resto Druids don't run kick. A kick was missed, and the entire party got chunked, which is what ultimately ended our Evoker friend's life. We'll go back a little bit here. I just currently have Spring Blossoms and Life Bloom on our monk friend. He just got hit. I'm putting a Rejuve on him. Again, I instantly Swift Mend. A lot of people are injured right now. This is a perfect wild growth opportunity, so that goes off. Unfortunately, our Evoker friend just immediately got hit and hurt, so I did a Nature Swiftness for an instant cast regrowth that is going to help stabilize him. Unfortunately, that Sonic Scream went off, and that is what ultimately killed him. It did like 50% of his health. There wasn't really going to be much that we could do to save him. As you see, then we're kind of constantly on the move. Not a lot of planting. I got the res off. Luckily, he held on taking it. That was probably what killed him. Not a lot of opportunity to cast because we're constantly moving. But again, you're a Resto Druid. You're able to cast on the move. Make sure that you are keeping your rejuves up on people. Make sure that you're doing your life bloom. Always keep adaptive swarm. Throw it on new F-lows as we move. You want to be constantly casting. ABC, always be casting. As you saw there, I did an incapacitating roar, trying to do a disoriented. Try to do any kind of CC to help everybody. Just little things like that can go a long way and help the party. As you can see, we're just kind of like booking it. Our tank goes in, pulls part of the next room. This is kind of a scary pack. This whole setup right here is actually kind of scary. We have 2 of the maggots that do the frontals. These guardians put a dangerous dot on somebody. There's still, I believe, the guys that are making the stuff on the ground. That's kind of a problem. And there's also, as we can see on our frames here, our evoker friend has a fixate on him. So there is a lot going on in this poll at this moment. It is a scary poll. So it's hard to get through and deal with. So we're gonna go back a little bit. We're gonna kind of watch it again as we see it unfold. Everyone's topped off. I'm again trying to keep rejuves on people, trying to keep stuff out there. All right. So immediately, this spell had to be done. 2 of the frontals had to be dodged. I did the camera directly above me to make sure that I'm not in the line of anything. People are constantly taking damage here. Convoke. Convoke is a powerful cooldown. Use it. It can give wild growths on the entire party as needed. It has a high chance of doing a flourish to extend all of your active hots. This is, like I said, it's a very chaotic pull. I'm also getting low on mana, but we're just kind of dealing with it. We're going through it. We're keeping hots on people as we continue to move. We're keeping those dispels. While those things are alive, you need to be ready for those dispels, because especially on a fortified week, those will truck and delete somebody in probably 2 globals, depending on how geared they are and how high of a key you are doing. But we just continue to move on, continue to deal with the fixates, frontals. We have another maggot incoming, so we gotta be keeping an eye out for those. Our evoker friend has one of the ticks running him down at the moment. Frontal, make sure that we're ahead of it. I go in there and I go into incapacitating roar to try to throw things off. I also then did a typhoon to get the stuff out of sanguine. Just trying to help as ever I can. Now, this is when things get scary as a healer, right? We're still in a big pull. Tank just keeps pulling. Why can't I cast something? Oh, I am out of mana. Resto Druid is pretty mana dependent. I feel like they're one of the more mana dependent ones this season. When this happens, hopefully you have a mana pots. I only had the green pots, which aren't the best, and I haven't been really using them. So I kind of started to just be a little smarter about it. I just focus on who needed the healing the most. In this case, I have a fixate on me. I tried to get 3 hots on me to kind of stabilize. Again, you don't need to keep everybody at top, especially when you're in these situations. You're going to notice that it's impossible. You need to triage who needs the healing the most. Our warrior has the fixate on him. I'm going to give him Send Ward and a Life Bloom. Watch how fast he heals there. We ended up getting through the pole. Watch how fast. Like, he wasn't super low. He wasn't in immediate danger. But with just those 2 things, he is rapidly regaining health. Trust in your hots as a Resto Druid. They do so much, especially depending on your mastery, depending on your stats, but they legitimately do a lot, and they can really mitigate and they can stabilize people. In rough polls, sometimes all you gotta do is just keep people stable and get through it. You do not need to keep the entire party at 100% at all times. That's nice, it's lovely, but you do not need to do that. As long as everybody is stable and not dying, you are doing a successful job. You will eventually get them to full, especially as a Resto Druid. It's going to be easy because you already have the hots on them, keeping them stable. The moment that damage stops, they're just going to passively go back to full. So, all right, boss time, Krogmaw. This is one of the scary ones for a lot of people on this this dungeon. Just watch the frontals, help out with ticks as much as you can. Ideally, your DPS is also dealing with it. Now you can see Tantrum Timer is up on the top. I see it incoming, so I start hotting everybody up. I then do an empowered wild growth, and then I do a convoke to help with that damage. Now the entire party, a lot of people are gonna be like, people are still hurting, I gotta start healing some more. That the evoker isn't topped off. As you can see, the moment convoke was done, I was done healing people, basically. Tantrum does a lot of damage in the beginning, and then you're done. He runs around for a bit, you have to go kill the ticks, and then you're done. At that point, you want to kind of just get back to making sure the ticks die and get back into position. Everyone is good and safe here. So, I'm just going to go back to doing my thing, basically. Now, unfortunately, our monk friend here wasn't paying attention to where Frogmon was charging. He's out there doing his best, trying to help out with ticks, and unfortunately, he gets run down in the middle of the street. It was a shame. We have 41 seconds on the battle res, so just gotta keep on keeping on at this point. Again, not too much damage in this. You can try to squeeze in damage whenever you can, because honestly there isn't a whole lot. It's really just around Tantrum. As long as people are keeping up on the ticks, it's fine. As a Resto Druid, it's really easy because you're able to do all hot healing. Now in this one, I was too busy focusing on ticks, and I didn't really prepare for Tantrum, which is unfortunate. But honestly, Tantrum, as long as you're working on getting people stabilized, it isn't that bad. As you can see, the Evoker gets pretty low. Now, the Evoker was pretty geared. If he was like 420 level like I was, maybe that would have been enough to kill him. But basically just a adaptive swarm empowered Trank was enough to top him off, stabilize him through those couple hits, and then we were just back to clearing the maggots again. I'm gonna go track down our friend, ran on out there, got a battle res, gotta get him back up. Let's get this thing down. Another Tantrum incoming. This time I'm actually paying more attention to it. I am now trying to hot up the entire party in preparation for this. He's gonna do a charge. I'm gonna try to help out with some of this stuff quickly. Tantrum. I immediately throw Send Ward on myself to help out. I then do an Empowered Wild Growth, and again, Convoke. That Empowered Wild Growth does a whole lot. I am doing Convoke to try to fish for a Flourish to help extend it, as well as just additional regrowths on everybody. Regrowths, rejuves, whatever I need on the entire party just to kind of get through it. Convoke is such a powerful cooldown. Don't sit on it. Use it whenever damage is incoming. It's a minute cooldown. No reason not to. After that, it's just again, just continuing to deal with ticks. I think it's looking like we're gonna have one more Tantrum here, but we're gonna kill him beforehand, and we don't have to worry about it. Ideally, if you want to play it safe, you would have just kind of still went through and got hots on the entire party. I had faith that we weren't gonna have any issues with it. Meds clicked and almost did another rune. Instead, I'm at the drink. Always try to drink whenever you can. That is the beauty of M+ versus Raid. You are able to drink whenever. If you are able to get ahead of the party, that way when things die, you drink, they run by you, you catch up. You don't have to drink to full every time, even just a little bit of a sip to get 50k, whatever. It's that will keep you going through it. So again, just continuing to do what I've been doing. Empower Wild Growths as we continue to go through this. So far the dungeon has gone fairly well. Only 3 deaths. Seems like it's smooth sailing. But things start to go awry here soon. We're going to go into one of the scarier packs. Ideally people will coordinate a little bit. As you can see, our tank here is calling one of the kicks. Both of these kicks need to be dealt with. If people are not taking care of the curse, you're going to rapidly just get a lot of damage and not be able to get through it. As you can see, I believe one of the kicks was missed, and it did about half our health on the entire party. But, again, Wild Growth, Life Blooms, F-Flows on everybody, Rejuves. I make sure to get some dots back out. I debate going Kitty Weaving, but instead I just focus on making sure people are hotted up as we go into the next boss. Again, trying to get a quick little drink. I'm not going to be able to get full, but I quickly get back in there while charging to an ally, so that way I'm in there before the mushrooms show up. So truthfully, this one also doesn't have a whole lot of healing. If the DPS play it smart and they get out of the upheaval, you actually don't even need to heal them during it. As long as they don't touch a mushroom. Touching a mushroom will do a lot of extra damage. Evoker there, I believe, got knocked up. That's why he took half health, whereas the warrior didn't, so he took none. You're just kind of playing it out, not really doing too much. I decided to do a little kitty weaving, not a whole lot here. You're basically just DPSing for a majority of this. Try to get hots on people before we go into the big hit. That's the biggest part of this.
Special coming.
So Festering Harvest is the big hit. It does more damage based on the number of mushrooms up, as well as you have all these fun spores to dodge at the same time. You want to ideally have some hots on the party, or that you are getting ready to do a big hit with your hot. In this case, Wild Growth is about to go off like right before Festering Harvest goes off, so the whole party will be coded in it. My thought process on this is I want to make sure that that goes off right around that time. It's a big healing right when a big hit happens. I'm either going to then Convoke or Flourish, or I might end up doing both. We will see. Unfortunately, though, instead, I get hit by a spore, which drops me down to half health and puts the dot on me. And Festering Harvest does half health, roughly. So I drop to 4% and immediately die. We have no battle reses. Heck, I'm the only battle res. And we're at 48%.
Run away.
As you can see here, Festering Harvest did a lot, but I would have been fine if it wasn't for the decaying spores. So what could I have done there? Okay, not getting hits, obviously. That is the most important thing. Make sure, especially when you are kind of below the recommended gear level that you are playing, you have to really play perfectly in order to get through it. I don't believe any mushrooms were up. It was just simply I just got hit by that spore and it did that much damage.
Watch your step.
Luckily, our group is pretty good. The tank is smart here. He takes a lot of damage, but he is able to clear the remaining shrooms, so no one gets hit too badly, and we're able to kind of just keep on going with it. So again, beyond that, what else could I have done? I got that hit. I was in the middle of a Convoke. I was basically at that point hoping that Convoke would save me. If I didn't hit Convoke, I'd already kind of in my mind committed to doing the Convoke play. If I didn't hit it, ideally I would have maybe health potted while hitting my defensive, and maybe I could have done a Nature's Swiftness into Regrowth on myself. Maybe that would have helped prevent it. As you briefly saw, I got up to 14% health, but a tick from that dot was actually enough to go through 14% of my health. It's hard saying. It's one of those where I'm 422 item level with last season stuff, and I'm in an 18. That is, yeah, it's hard saying exactly, but in my opinion, that's probably most of it. Is just making sure I do the mechanic, making sure I dodge things, and more item level, appropriate item level for the dungeon level, and that would have been no problem. Realistically, that probably would have dropped me down quite a bit, but I wouldn't have died from it. Now that said, as you continue to improve and you push into higher and higher keys, you're going to have situations where it doesn't matter if you're 440. That might still just delete you. If you're doing a 20, 22 especially, you get hit by one of those things, you're probably just going to die, irregardless. At that point, it's just ultimately repetition. Get as many reps in on the dungeons. That way you are able to do your cooldowns, your rotation, your casting. Oh no, you can watch me kind of flounder as I try to climb up. Oh no. You can do all these things second nature with and still dodging mechanics. I haven't played much Resto Druid this season. It's something that I played a lot of previously, but I am rusty on it. I think I'm thinking about what I want to cast more. I'm not being extremely efficient. This is not high level Resto Druid play. I'm not playing at peak performance, peak Resto Druid, even on by my level. If I had been playing this a lot more, that would have been different. Likewise, even this week, this is like the first key I actually did today. So again, I was super cold in that aspect, but yeah, it's little things like that. Work on gearing up. If you're doing if you're doing 11s with this current season, you're able to. Oh no, hold on. I guess we should discuss this stuff. So, a dispel comes out. I dispel the Windwalker. My dispel is on cooldown. However, he then gets another dispel. This is a big hit. He has a rejuve, life bloom on him. Unfortunately, he's not in F-low. He is hurting hard. I immediately see this and I swift mend him, and then I was gonna go into wild growth to try to help everybody. I legitimately didn't think it would kill him, but unfortunately it did. So we just kind of continue with the pull. One dude down. You can't save everyone. Again, maybe it's one of those things where, again, gear. If I was a bit more geared out, I would have been able to kind of brute force that and not had as much of an issue keeping him alive. Ultimately, that's what it is. Like I said, this toon is severely undergeared, especially for an 18, but we're giving it our all here. There are ways to still play better, to improve. And this is an example where, yeah, if you play Resto Druid and you're a bit more geared than this, you can absolutely do an 18, no problem.
Shockwave.
All right, we're kind of coming up on the final gauntlet here of the dungeon. This has a kind of scary kick that hopefully your DPS are dealing with. Make sure you're watching for tentacles. And then our big dude there, he points. Make sure you sidestep it. Don't get hit by that. Higher fortified weeks, it will just elite you. So do your best to try to avoid that. Now, you may have seen me jumping around quite a few times. That's one of my favorite things about Resto Druid 2 is the ability to do wild charge. It changes based on the form that you are in. If you are in boomy form, it becomes like a disengage, like on a hunter. If you're in feral kitty form, you actually jump to your target. And if you're in just normal like caster form, non-boomy form, you actually can jump to an ally. It is an excellent repositioning tool. It's something to kind of practice with, get it, and kind of learn the different functions of it. Now, as you saw there, a lot of damage came out. Our warrior friend actually went down. That was probably a combination of the tentacles, which I was talking about earlier, as well as this whole pointing mechanic. Actually, if I remember right, I don't think we kicked Dark Echoes. You will see Dark Echoes on the horror is not being kicked, and it's doing pulsating damage on the entire party. Unfortunately, we're not running a kick, so you're basically at the mercy of your group at that point. Try to heal the best you can. Damage comes out, swift mend somebody, wild growth. If you need to rejuve or regrowth, spam a specific person, you can do that. But make sure that you're not doing it longer than you need to. Again, trust in your HOTS to actually get through a majority of that healing. Regrowth spam is not the norm. It is an exception. You do it only when somebody is in imminent danger that if you do not spam on them, they will die. Because ideally, they will passively be healed back up with your HOTS. Again, our monk friend got pretty hit there. Hit pretty hard. I threw a rejuve on him, swift mend, and I decided to just do another rejuve. With photosynthesis, it's a empowered rejuve, and I was able to help top him off there. And now it's time to go into the final dungeon. It's, final boss of the dungeon. And hey, man, we are doing swell. All we gotta do is play it smoothly and we will time this. If only. So as you will see, the entire group is getting hit with a dot on them. You can actually dispel this. If you have a priest, they can actually mass dispel it. Totally OP for this fight. It's great. So there's a lot of healing you gotta do. Basically, you're keeping everybody hotted up as much as you can. As you can see there, I did empower regrowth into flourish, and then I also threw on a convoke as well. Probably didn't need to do both of those, but it did give me a very long, very empowered wild growth to kind of get through this earlier section here. Unfortunately, it does mean I'm a little caught out, like without anything else for a minute. But again, Convoke is a very short cooldown. As you will see, it's in the top left there. It is a 30-second cooldown now at this point. It's been ticking for 30 seconds already. Constantly getting empowered wild growths out in the party. Try to keep double life bloom down on everybody as much as you can. Do some regrowths when you're able. Make sure that you're keeping F-flow on everybody. Now, this dot hits hard, as you can see. Unfortunately, I didn't catch this in the moment. So the big mechanic is you can dispel it, or preferably, that light beam actually dispels it off of people. And it will also get rid of some of the crap on the ground too, but it gets rid of that dot on everybody. So I saw a light beam. As long as you play it right, you will never really go past 3 stacks of this. It will hurt, but it's survivable. Unfortunately, I didn't see our warrior was as low as he was. He just got popped there. And unfortunately, he was the one that was targeted with the light beam. So what does that mean? That means that we did not get a dispel. I should have immediately dispelled myself at this point because I have 4 stacks and it is trucking me. As you can see there, 5 stacks, we are hurting. I convoke thinking. Again, I'm seeing that we are hurting hard. I popped a health pot there to get through it. That literally a single tick took out pretty much all of my health. I have a dispel here. I 100% should have worked on dispelling the party, starting with myself. But I am banking on this mechanic, and I'm not registering the fact that we have 5 stacks of this thing. As you can see, it was ticking for pretty much half my health per tick. Unfortunately, I go down. I should have dispelled myself. We decided to reset. We're going to speed up a little bit here. I went the wrong way by mistake. All right, and we show back up. Okay. Round 2. We have more than enough time, right? We got this. We got this. We also have Lust now. I realized what my issue was too, so you will see I'm actually going to be a lot more proactive with the dispels. I'm not messing with it. I recognize how low I am. I do not want it to have that pop me again. So, just like last time, I'm trying to keep hots on everybody. There's going to be constant damage. This time I dispelled the Evoker. I'm just trying to keep up some dispels on at least somebody that I think is kind of squishy. In hindsight, probably should have done the Warrior since he was the one that died. In hindsight, I probably should just always done it on myself. Because again, as a healer, you're be conceited. You are the most important person here. If you die, the party dies. There's no problem with keeping yourself up. Now, as I said earlier, I like to try to keep Life Bloom on a DPS. DPS and tank, 2 DPS preferably, with the current photosynthesis build that we run. However, because of the damage that was coming out, I was actually decided to elect to use Life Bloom on myself. That's additional healing, plus it's making all my hots tick faster. Hopefully that will help out with some of this, especially as I'm undergeared. As you can see, as undergeared as I am though, we're doing fine. We're getting through this. This is where, as long as you play well, and you understand the dungeon and your class, you can get past content that's higher than your current gear level. Now, I also have good players with me. These are pugs. These are pretty geared pugs. These are pugs that you would normally find in the 18 range, whereas my piddly Resto Druid here does not belong in the 18 range. But we're getting through it. I'm keeping up my healing. 60k, it's not a crazy number, but it's all you really need for this dungeon, for this boss fight in particular. Try to keep up on those dispels, make sure they're getting clear. Now, you'll see where things go wrong here. Unfortunately, Volcanic spawns on anybody that's away from a mob. Okay, so it's mainly a ranged mechanic. We're all sitting melee, except the spores cause Volcanic as well. Unfortunately, right when the frontal comes out, a Volcanic spawns beneath the party and knocks up myself and the Evoker. And deleted. Or I'm sorry, the Warrior. Deleted. No battle reses. 27 minutes left on the clock. It's dead key. Hate to see it. Me and the Evoker are discussing in chat. He calls out that it's volcanic. I say, yeah. I'm gonna complain a bit. Why's it got spawned there? It's so stupid. The spores caught a trigger it. Blah blah blah. It's unfortunate, 100%. There's a lot of stuff on the ground. It's also true because like it's a bummer too, because even if the warrior went down, we could have easily done it. As you'll see, the tank decides to go God mode tank. He's like, I'm not running this again. I'll do it myself. It runs around and deals with it. But it's hard seeing when all that is happening. It's one of those things going forward as I run this again through the week. If I do another underrot on volcanic week, I'm just gonna take mental note. Hey, watch for volcanics in melee because the spores can trigger them. Keep that in mind. Even though this key ends up being a deplete, it's a bummer. It's a heartbreaker. We easily timed it. It's one of those things where knowing what happened, recognizing what happened, and trying to see if you can learn from it in some way. So going forward, like I said, what's my takeaway? I'm gonna make sure that the next time I run this on a volcanic week, I'm gonna make sure that I keep in mind, hey, stuff can be right under me and I might not notice it. And it's difficult to see with all the ground textures. But I just need to make extra note of the fact that, yeah, it can spawn, and it will spawn directly under the party in melee. And maybe that will save a key in the future. So, overall though, it was a good run. Like I said, watching these videos are a great way, like watching a recording of yourself is a great way to realize things you did poorly, things you could have done better, as well as things that you did well. I was really good about utilizing my wild growths consistently when people had just taken damage, and I was always doing empowered wild growths. I was keeping Life Bloom on 2 targets as much as I could. Some little mistakes that I made, obviously the ones that we called out, the double deaths on the boss fights, those were really unfortunate. That bad dispel, I could have been faster on a couple of dispels. Again, I was focusing a little bit too much on DPS in some cases. Again, you don't want to always do that. You need to make sure that you keep everybody topped off. But at the same time, it's a good thing how I was approaching HOTS. Again, you don't need to have everybody constantly coded in HOTS at all times. They tick faster than you might expect it, so you don't have to be completely and utterly proactive about getting the entire party coded in HOTS at all times for that big hit. Even if you wait until right before that hit to start doing it, you're going to be fine. You're going to be able to get through it for the most part. But yeah, I don't know. There's not really much else to say, I suppose, as far as this this run. Like I said, our tank friend just does not want to run this back again and do it again, so he's just gonna solo it. But I hope you got something out of this, whether it was my ramblings as we were going through it, just watching what I was playing, how I was playing, how I was positioning myself, what I was doing. Like I said, I didn't play this the best. I'm a bit rusty on Resto Druid. This is the first key of the day, but I feel like I played it really well for the most part, except for some couple like really bad mistakes. If it weren't for those, I feel like we 100% had it. So I really appreciate you guys taking them time to listen in, watching it, seeing what all I did, what my thought process on things was. Yeah. And thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you guys next time.